Hey guys, I'm cmasupra and welcome to another Company of Heroes 2 multiplayer video. The game I have for you guys today is not a particularly special game, but it does show one important thing that everybody should do in Company of Heroes 2, and that is unit preservation. If you don't know what that means, it is basically just keeping your units alive. It's just as simple as that, but it's a lot more complicated to do than it sounds. By the end of this game, I had 5 Vet 3 units, which is more than I usually have. I'm not great at unit preservation in Company of Heroes 2. I was pretty good at it in Company of Heroes 1 because the retreat modifiers were lower, so units survived more often when they were retreating. But in Company of Heroes 2, even though I'm not great at it, I am slowly getting better, and so I figured it'd be a good time to pass on some tips about it to you guys, and so that's what this video is going to be about. But before I go talking into unit preservation, let's go over the standard stuff that needs to be talked about in every single Company of Heroes or Company of Heroes 2 game, or video is what I mean, every video. So I'm playing as the Germans, my opponent is playing as the Russians, and this is a guy who I'd actually played the very game before this one. And so he and I are just talking like, why did he lose that game? Because he did lose that previous one. We actually ended up playing like 5 games together that night because we just kept getting matched against each other for some odd reason. I guess nobody else was playing at the time. I don't know what it was, but sometimes he beat me, sometimes I beat him. It was pretty even matching, so he and I made some good games together. This is one of the better ones that I had. So, anyways, like I said, I'm playing as the Germans. My opponent is the Russians. The map is Moscow outskirts. We are on the outskirts of Moscow. I have no idea if this is what it actually looked like back way back in World War II, but who knows? Nobody really knows, do they? Unless they see pictures. But then that's just a section of land. Anyways, that's just a random topic. I'm rambling about the map name of all things. So, anyways, my first 3 units out, since I'm the Russians, are conscripts. I never go with anything else but conscripts for my first 3 units. Some people build tier 1 and go for a scout car or sniper. I don't really do that because I find the scout cars to just be too weak anymore. They used to be really good, but I'm not really seeing anybody use them anymore, and I'd find myself not able to use them very well at all. So I don't do that anymore. Instead, I go 3 conscripts, and then from there, I vary it out depending on whether I want to go with Molotovs or do a fast T-70 or what I want to do. I find more and more often that I am going with the fast T-70, just because, I don't know why, but in this game, I did go with the fast T-70. The previous game I played against the same guy, I did go with fast Molotovs instead, and it didn't work out for me at all. He was very good at dodging my Molotovs, and so this game I was just like, well, I know you're good at dodging Molotovs, so I'm not even going to buy him this game. Instead, I'm going to go for a fast T-70, and so that's what I'm going to be doing this game. Fast T-70 or fast T-34, of course, since I don't ever really plan out which one I'm going to buy, because I don't know how much fuel I'll have by the time the building is done being finished. Building. So anyways, we have a huge skirmish going on here. Is two Grenadier squads and a Pioneer squad versus 2 conscript squads. I believe I had to retreat 1, and I may or may not have... No, they're still alive. I don't know, but it's 2 conscript squads versus 2 grenadier squads and a pioneer squad. There's also an MG up there, it looked like it was, so I'm moving my conscripts back. Over on the left side, I had another conscript squad capturing points. On the right side here, he's going to lose this Pioneer squad if he doesn't retreat, and he's not retreating, and there it goes, just as I predicted, because I actually played this game and I know what happens. Imagine that. So now I'm kind of blobbing up here. This is not very smart of me. I knew the MG was there, and yet I still blobbed up. So I'm trying to split my forces here, try to make only 1 squad get suppressed and try to flank the MG. But even if I try to flank the MG, it's not really going to work for me because he still has 2 Grenadier squads and my conscript squads are being focus fired, and they're weaker than the Grenadier squads were initially. So I didn't have a chance of winning there. So I bring in the other conscript squad that I had over at the top left corner of the map, and they're here to support my other 6-man conscript squad that's still over there fighting. Now it's a 5-man squad, but they're there to support, and that's exactly what they do. They keep the Grenadiers at bay. The MG was firing at long range, but hey, I don't really care. I'm just going to go to the other side of the point, capture the point, and there's not a thing you can do about it unless you move your MG forward. So, yeah, I don't really care that your MG's firing at me when I'm on the right side of the point, because I can just move to the left. Back at base, I am building tier 2. I was going to say 3 because it's the third icon at the bottom right corner, but it's actually tier 2. HQ is tier 0, apparently, because it's the way people started numbering them back in Company of Heroes 1 when that game came out. But I'm building it, and I don't intend to buy any units out of it, just like I never do when I am going with fast T70 or fast T34. I always just build tier 2 and then immediately go and build tier 3, which I could actually do here pretty soon once I get the 275 manpower I need. I have plenty of fuel to do it. You only need 90 fuel, and then by the time it's done building, I can probably afford a T70. So I'll be building it here. In fact, right now, I was going to say soon, but I guess right now is when I'll be building tier 3. So definitely a fast T70. And here we can see a half track, and this is a point where I was just happy. It's just like, hey, you in tier 2. Guess what? I'm about to bring out a tank, and you have no counter for it unless you have a pack from tier 2, which you very well might. But in all likelihood you don't, because he brought out a half track, and so I don't think you're expecting me to bring out a vehicle anytime soon. So yay! I am going to be able to counter your half track. Your half track will be useless to you. So this is going to go very well for me. I just got to get this T70 out really, really soon, because if I don't, I'm going to start losing map control, which is okay. I can still come back from a loss of map control once the T70 is out. It's the way a T70 rush works, is you lose map control quite often. But I'd like to bring it out soon, just so I don't lose the map control if I can avoid it. It's always better not to lose map control. My opponent is capturing the leftmost victory point, and he has the middle one, so he will be counting my VPs down here pretty soon. But luckily for me, and the very early game, I managed to count down his VPs slightly, so he's not really getting a big advantage over me. I also have over half the map right now, which is awesome. So I did pretty well in the early game here. So I will be buying a T70, because I can't afford the T34 yet. I need the manpower, and the T34 does cost more fuel and manpower, not just more fuel. So T70 it is, and the T70 really is a good little tank. I like it a lot. This engineer squad is completely screwed. It's retreating all the way through my opponent's forces. I'm amazed it's gotten as far as it has, but then it goes down to a Panzer Grenadier squad, so that's a good indication that my opponent is still not expecting a vehicle, because a Panzer Grenadier squad has 0 counter to a tank, even a light tank like a T70, so he's not expecting me to bring out a T70 anytime soon, so this is a good indication for me. It's going well. I am losing map control because when you're taking up to a T70, you just don't have as many units that you don't have as many units as your opponent does, particularly when your opponent is roasting your units with a flamethrower half-track. But that's pretty usual. I'm not bothered by the loss of map control as long as I can keep him from taking up so fast that I have no counter to his Panzer IV. That's inevitably going to come, like that does in most games. What is up with those two frozen people? I did not notice that when I was playing. Look next to the fence over there at the bottom right corner of the screen. What's up with those two people just frozen in time? I don't know what was up with that. But anyways, my T70 is out, and this is a good tank for countering infantry, better than the T34. And so whenever I can, I'll always chase an infantry squad as they're retreating, because even when their squad is retreating, because of the high retreat modifiers in Company of Heroes 2 compared to Company of Heroes 1, units do not receive as much reduced accuracy against them as they did in Company of Heroes 1. And so I'll go chasing them, and a lot of times I will finish off the squad with the T70, and so T70 is a great little tank for that, and so I usually do go and give chase. Now you may notice that there is actually a pack up at the top right corner of the screen. You can see it over there to the right of the half-track, and so this is not good for me. He was actually expecting a T70. I just didn't know that he had a pack out. Luckily for me, though, the pack does not seem to have any sort of conception? What? Does not have any perception of accuracy, and so he wasn't able to hit my T70 at all, and that is just really lucky for me. So T-70 lives to fight another day. And now what I'm doing here with a T-70 is actually kind of smart. I'm taking it around behind this house, closer to his base, not my base. And I am going to try and just hit him from behind where his pack is not facing. My opponent does have an Opel Blitz truck, by the way. You might have seen the yellow text here as I was bringing my T-70 over here. And so he has an Opel truck somewhere around here. I don't know where it is, but I don't really care because I want to kill his manpower income. He can get more fuel and munitions all he wants, but if he doesn't have manpower, he can't spend it. And so I just want to drain his manpower by killing off his units and just hurting his manpower, really, because manpower is the rarest resource in the game. It's always the one that you want to drain whenever you can't really drain. Well, obviously you want to drain the third point, not point. You want to drain the third resource when you can't drain the first two, right? That's what I was about to say there. Obviously that's the case. So let me rephrase that. You want to drain manpower, even if you can drain fuel or munitions. Manpower is really the one to drain, because without manpower, your opponent won't have an army because they can't buy anything. They can't even buy infantry. So that's really what I wanted to say. So I'm trying to drain his manpower. I was trying to drain his manpower, rather, and then the pack turned around, and so my T-70 couldn't really do very much over there, so I'm just bringing it back around the house, wanting to make sure it's on my side in case it gets abandoned or something. I don't want to lose it because it's out there all alone in enemy territory. So I bring it over to my side, and I'm deciding on a doctrine here. I've played quite a few games as Soviets lately, and I have not picked the first two doctrines that I have available to me. I keep picking the third one. The third one is just so good. Is the one that gives your conscripts a repair ability. It gives you Pepeshkas on your conscripts if you want to buy the upgrade. What else does it do? I can't think of what else it does. It gives you an incendiary barrage. It's that one, if you know what I'm talking about. I don't know the names of any of these doctrines on either side. I just know which doctrines that I like to use, and out of all the Soviet doctrines, that's the one I use the most. So we will be seeing that in this game. I actually haven't picked my doctrine yet, but I will be picking at some point in this game. I'm sure of it. So my T-70 is still alive. It's not Vet 1 yet, but I'm sure it's getting kind of close there. It's got to be getting quite a few kills at this point in the game. It has 8 kills, and in fact it's very, very close to the ranking up to Vet 1, which would be quite nice, because then it can capture points. And that is always just an awesome thing to have. The pack is firing at the Panzer IV carcass. I was thinking the carcass would hold up or prevent line of sight for the pack, and so the pack wouldn't fire. But I guess he manually said fire at the carcass or something, and so he destroyed the carcass, and so my T-70 had to quickly back up, and the T-70 died. So the T-70 is dead. This is not going well for me now anymore. Because with the T-70, I did get back quite a bit of map control, but it wasn't very much, and it wasn't worth the loss of a T-70. I finally managed to decrew the pack here, but the T-70 is already dead, so it was a bit too little too late. Now there's smoke coming down, and we get to find out what this is, and what is it? It is apparently a strafing run by the Stuka, so that appears to be what doctrine my opponent has picked. It gives him an Opel Blitz truck, it gives him a Stuka strafing run. I don't know what else it gives him. We might find out before this game is over. Did I steal his MG? I did steal his MG. You can see it at the top right corner, retreating. I did steal his MG42, so I now have an MG42 on my side. That Stuka I thought was done. It wasn't, though, so all 3 of my squads over there in the middle of the map just got pinned instantly. That was pretty funny, but annoying, obviously. So yeah, Stuka is still flying around, still wanting to strafe. I do have AT grenades, as I bought... I always buy them after the T-70. The 2 things I buy after a T-70 are AT grenades and... what was the other thing? It was just in my head. A mortar. Because I figure a mortar... If I have a T-70, my opponent's going to start camping a bit and wanting to get some form of AT. Just keep his map control and not let me take his map control. Because if he tries to take mine, I'll just kill him with the T-70. And so a mortar is a good way to dislodge your opponent as they're camping, waiting for a counter to your T-70. And one of the things that they can use for a counter to your T-70 is a Panzer IV or a Stug or really any other tank. because the T-70 is not a strong vehicle at all. It's a very light tank. And so what I use to counter that is AT grenades. If I can use AT grenades on his tanks, then his tanks are countered. They'll have damaged engines. They will not be able to chase my T-70. So it just works out well for me. So at some point I did pick a doctrine, and I have picked the very one that I told you. It gives you all those abilities you can see. Hit the dirt, Pepeshkas, conscript repair, replacement of some kind. I don't know what that would be called. And then finally, incendiary barrage. So I really like this doctrine. I've never actually used the replacement ability, but I assume it's just like Allied War Machine. Those of you who have used it, is it just like Allied War Machine? I assume it is, but I've never actually used it. Obviously not for tanks, but for infantry. Because it says it replaces squads with conscripts or something. I also bought an AT gun, because I know that one of the counters he can bring out to my T-70, and in fact the best counter he can bring out to my T-70 is another tank. And so I got an AT gun, just like I said. So that AT gun will be quite useful, hopefully. We'll see. At some point my T-70 will be countered. It hasn't been countered yet because I actually have lost my T-70 due to the pack, which was rather sad. I lost it just to a pack. Even though I knew exactly where the pack was, I still lost it. But we have another T-70 on the field. I could have bought a T-34. I mean, look at how much fuel I have, 186. I could easily afford a T-34. But I opted for a T-70 for some reason, probably due to manpower if I had to guess. I don't actually know why I did it, but I guess it would be because of manpower. So, manpower is a constraint, rarest resource in the game, and you obviously do want to keep as much of your manpower as you can. You don't want to start losing units. You don't want to superfluously spend manpower either. Now here we see a Panzer IV on the field. It's the first real tank we've seen on the field. So now I know where his Panzer IV is. In all likelihood, he doesn't have two of them, so I know where his one Panzer IV is, unless he does, by that small chance, have more than one. So I know where not to take my T-70, because I know where his Panzer IV is. That's what I'm trying to say here. I know this video is supposed to be about unit preservation, but I haven't really talked much about that. So while there's a bit of a lull going on here, let's talk about that. So unit preservation is really something that is learned over time. Look at this, we both ended up retreating from that battle. That's actually a perfect example. Neither one of us wanted to fully lose our units. We both retreated, even though I retreated first, I'm pretty sure. He still retreated, and he still retreated because even though he won the battle, I could bring in another unit over there and it would immediately kill his squad, and so it was smart of him to retreat the squad. And that's one thing about unit preservation. Even if you win a battle, it's still sometimes worth retreating your squads anyways, because it'll help save them. If your opponent retreats his whole army, you should do the exact same thing unless your army does not need reinforcing or healing or anything like that, because he's not going to be attacking you while his whole army is retreating. And so you can also retreat, and then you can both come and attack each other again, and you will still have the upper hand because you didn't spend as much manpower reinforcing as your opponent did, because he obviously retreated first. He must have lost more. So that's one thing about unit preservation. Another thing is just retreat your squads early. If they're in a fight that they're guaranteed to lose, don't stick around just fighting, and we will actually see an example of that in this game. Don't just stick around fighting. Retreat. I mean, there's no reason to take unnecessary damage, especially if you're guaranteed to lose. The way I see it, if you have like a 60% chance to lose, you should just retreat from the battle, unless you are stalling for another unit to come up there and help your current unit, and you know that the unit that's coming up to support your current unit is going to get there before your current unit dies. So that is another thing about unit preservation. So here you just saw me lose another T-70, and at this point I was just like, really, guy? You're good at dodging my Molotovs, you're killing my T-70s this game. What can I do against you that you won't be able to counter very easily? And at this point I figured, conscripts, he's not countering my conscripts too well. I mean, he does have a flamethrower half-track, which has survived the whole game. I still haven't killed the thing, despite the fact that I built two T-70s. And I have an AT gun. But that's the one unit that's really killing my conscripts at this point. Nothing else is really killing my conscripts. MG42 here is going to save my AT gun, and that is, I guess, another thing with unit preservation. Always cover yourself. If you have an AT gun out up front, make sure you're covering it with an MG, because your opponent's instinct to counter an AT gun is infantry. So cover it with an MG, cover it with a few conscript squads, or grenadier squads, or panzer grenadier squads. Just cover it with something anti-infantry. It helps keep your AT guns alive. That's something I've learned about AT guns, because I suck with AT guns, but I'm learning how to use them. Looking at the top right corner, it appears that I built myself a T-34, so I finally decided to go with a T-34 instead of a T-70, so this is going with the bigger tanks, I guess. I'm going with the bigger tanks. This is getting bigger and bigger with the tanks. On the left side here, I'm planting mines because I don't really have any defense for this victory point. I just want to plant mines anywhere that my opponent could come from. And so I ended up placing like 4 mines over there before I leave over there. Mines are a good way to save your units, I guess. I could say that, because you're not spending manpower on mines, you're spending munitions, and munitions... I was about to say they're free, but no, that's not true at all. Munitions cost munitions. But they're not manpower, and manpower is the rarest resource, as you will hear me saying many times in this video, because when you're trying to save your units, you're trying to save yourself manpower. You're also giving yourself veterancy, because by the end of this game, like I said at the beginning of it, I ended up with 5 Vet 3 units, and that is just awesome. Looking at the map right now, I do have all 3 victory points, and looking at the top of the screen, my opponent is losing victory points very rapidly. He's at like half, a little bit over half, and I'm at pretty much all my victory points, so he's definitely losing at this point. He can definitely feel the pressure, I am sure. I'm getting more map control here, and it's not because of a T-70, it's because I'm simply outplaying him with conscripts. One of the perks of going this doctrine, by the way, is getting the Pepeshkas, like I mentioned. Pepeshkas are awesome. They basically allow you to go toe-to-toe against Panzer Grenadiers for just 20 extra munitions. You're still weaker than Panzer Grenadiers, for sure. You will still lose most battles in close range against Panzer Grenadiers if you have a conscript squad that's unvetted or vet 1 with Pepeshkas, because the Panzer Grenadiers are still a little bit better, but it gives you a much more equal footing against the Panzer Grenadiers, and it gives you a more equal footing against Grenadiers with LMG-42s. The LMG-42s are still better than your Pepeshkas up close, sadly, but it still gives you that little bit of edge that you need on your conscripts to make them do really well. And so that's one of the main reasons I really like this doctrine. I feel like this is kind of appropriate to mention now. I don't actually use doctrines with heavy tanks in Company of Heroes 2. I do like them in Company of Heroes 1, as you have seen many times by myself using the King Tiger to save myself many times. But in Company of Heroes 2, I really don't find myself using heavy tanks very often, and I find that every time they're used against me, I just own them. Like, they don't do anything for my opponent. They just make him solidify his own loss, which is pretty funny. So heavy tanks I really don't find are very useful in Company of Heroes 2. And I just felt like that was worth mentioning. This doctrine doesn't have it, since I was talking about my doctrine. This doctrine does not have any heavy tanks, and even with that, I still like to use this doctrine. Now there is a huge battle going on in the middle right now, and this is not going well for me. My T-34 is getting shot at by 2 Panzer IVs, my AT gun got decrewed, it was Vet 2, Mortar is Vet 2 and retreating, MG42 is dead, it was vetted I believe, and so he just made a major push in the middle and I just lost so many units. You know what I did wrong there? Why I didn't have good unit preservation? It's because I was trying to multitask with too many units at the same time, and my opponent out-multitasked me with his huge force. He just lost a pack. That was nice. It would have been nice to AT grenade that Opal, and I so wanted to do it, but the half-track got in my way, and so I AT grenaded the half-track instead, and then had to retreat, and I may end up losing this whole Vet 2 squad. I'll actually talk about this now, and then I'll go back to my original topic about the huge push a little bit later. But right now, This squad could have very much died there, and you know why they might have died? Because they were behind enemy lines, and their whole retreat path was covered by enemy units. I mean, it wasn't, but it could have been. It was covered by two Panzer IVs and a half-track with the flamethrower, but luckily for me, it wasn't covered by a whole bunch of enemy units. But if it had been, they would have been screwed. So that's one thing. That's another thing with unit preservation. Just don't go so far behind enemy lines with a unit that's not guaranteed to do well alone, and then end up retreating through your opponent's forces and then lose the whole squad. That would be a very bad thing to do, so don't do that. But going back to the topic that I wanted to talk about with that huge push and why I lost so many units in that huge push, the reason I lost him is my opponent out-multitasked me. He was able to just push up with his units, he was able to micro faster than I could micro my units, and as a result, he was able to take his weak units and move them backwards fast enough before they died. I, however, was not able to do such a thing. Look at this Vet 3 Grenadier squad. That's pretty hilarious. They have Vet 3, they have an LMG-42, and they still lost that battle against my essentially unvetted combat engineer squad, because Vet 1 doesn't make them any better at combat. So that was pretty funny right there. But finishing off what I was saying about the big push, he just out-multitasked me. He was able to take his weak units, move them back off the front line before they died. I was not able to do that because I just couldn't click fast enough. I knew which units were weak, I knew which ones I had to move back, but really they overall became all really weak, and so I wasn't able to move them back because I couldn't click fast enough, and then they died. This combat engineer squad also died, and that was a Vet 1 squad, so that's not good. But look at this. T-34 versus half-track, that's Vet 2. Who is going to win this fight? I actually know the answer, but the result is something worth watching. So watch this fight. It's rather funny. The half-track is not going to kill my T-34, but look at how little damage the half-track is taking from my T-34. It's crazy. I mean, my T-34 hit him like 3 times, and he's only at half health. So Vet 2 half-tracks are very difficult to take down. My ZIS AT gun just took down a Panzer IV. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Hello, half-tracker. You didn't go in front of my AT gun because I'd really appreciate it if you did, but he's not. It seems he is not. It seems he's smarter than that. So AT grenade on the half-track. It'd be really nice to kill this thing, and then there you go. T-34 knocks out its main gun, then out of control. So it took 2 more AT grenades and then a T-34 shot to kill the half-track. It essentially took 6 T-34 shots to kill it. Or maybe the equivalent of 5 in terms of damage. That's a lot to kill the Vet 2 half-track, but luckily it finally died. And once again, talking about unit preservation, my opponent failed at it right there because he went too far behind my lines. Now, I'm not suggesting you just turtle up with your whole force really, really slowly throughout the whole map. That's not how you win games, as I mean, it's kind of... how do I explain it? It's not a good way to win games. It should be more of a last resort to turtle up. Instead, what you want to do is, like, attack your opponent where they're weakest, not at their main force, which in this case is at the middle of the map, but instead you want to go to the sides of the map. Go capture map. Map control, I guess I should say. Go capture map control, and with the map control, build up a better army than your opponent, and win that way. Don't just head-on attack him at his main force, because he will go around the sides, or if you're attacking on the side, then he'll go in the middle and the other side, and capture map control that way, and beat you that way. So, don't just attack his main force, go where he is weakest. To put it as an example, on the left side you saw me just chase off a Panzer Grenadier squad at that leftmost field point, and I did that by just attacking it with a single vetted Pepeshka conscript squad, and he was not able to stand up to my squad, and as a result I ended up winning over there. So I attacked where he was weakest, and he paid for it by losing that battle and some manpower. Now I did just lose a full conscript squad over here in the middle, so he's winning there. I just lost my T-34 as well. I'm trying so hard just to kill this Panzer IV. AT grenade it. My ZIS was not able to finish it off, but I was able to get his his whatchamacallits, his infantry to retreat and his Panzer IV to back up. I do have another T-34 that I decided to build because I figured it'd be really helpful. I may have just killed a full Grenadier squad there. That would be awesome. Huge battle going on in the middle, and look at what I'm doing. I'm going on the sides, and I'm putting pressure on him at his weakest spots. In this case, he has nothing to counter me coming at his weakest spots, because his whole army was in the middle, was being the key word, because they're all at his base now. And so I attacked him where he was weakest, and I was able to still hold off in the middle. I held off his attack, and then I charged with my own attack at the end, and ended up winning. Because throughout the whole game, at the sides of the map, I have been slowly dwindling his forces. He's been slowly dwindling mine as well, but I've been doing a bit more to him than he's been doing to mine. To me. So, looking at veterancy right now, I have 3 Vet 2 conscript squads, 1 Vet 3 conscript squad, and a Vet 2 mortar. My AT gun has 0 vet, T-34 has 0 vet, and I also have 2 conscript squads with 0 vet. But I do have lots of vet going on the conscript squads right now, and the mortar. The Vet 2 mortar is quite nice. He's charging now, so move my T-34 back in case there is a pack somewhere, or a Panzer IV, because his Panzer IVs are beating my T-34s. I heard that T-34s became better than Panzer IVs, but I have yet to have a single T-34 win against a Panzer IV, so yeah, I don't think that's the case. Either that or I'm just doing it wrong. I have 2 Vet 3 conscript squads now, and I have 1 over on the left side of the screen that's off screen. Mortar's in a bit of trouble, so move it backwards. AT gun is facing the Panzer IV and helping my T-34 out, but the Panzer IV is Vet 2. Face my front AT gun, because I had 2 AT guns, 1 in the back, 1 in the front, so I'm refacing the front, 1 to face the Panzer IV. Mortar is a bit screwed because I'm trying to run over the enemy squads with my T-34, and it's not going so well. I'm trying to crush them, that's what I'm trying to do right now, and it's, like I said, it's not going very well. My mortar is kind of screwed here, but oh, he just lost at least a Vet 2, if not a Vet 3 Grenadier squad. I'm not sure what vet it was, but it was more than Vet 1. It was at least Vet 2, so that's a pretty big loss for him. But now look at this, Panzer IV incoming on my T-34. T-34 has a damaged engine. I turned my back AT gun to face the Panzer IV, and it is firing at the Panzer IV. I also use an AT grenade on the Panzer IV, and the AT gun misses that shot. The Panzer IV is going to get away, and there's not a thing I can do about it. My front AT gun has been decrewed, because he knows that it's quite a threat to his Panzer IV. So his Panzer IV survives, my AT gun does not, my frontal AT gun that is, my T-34 also does not survive, and so that's just overall a loss for me. However, look at his VPs, he only has 45 remaining VPs. I have held most of the map for pretty much the whole game. That is awesome. Look at this Panzer Grenadier squad about to die. There it goes. Never stay and fight in a fight that you're guaranteed to lose. Never do it. Never. Ever. Unless you're stalling for another unit to come and help you, which in that case he was not. Even if he was, that Panzer Grenadier squad was guaranteed to die if it stuck around, and it did stick around, so he made a huge loss out of that. My conscript squad got away, and it is Vet 3, so it's a good thing it got away. It'd be very, very bad if it didn't. He has taken the leftmost VP, but he lost a Panzer Grenadier squad to do it, and that squad is 360 manpower. That is a lot of manpower to lose just to get a VP, I really must say. He still would have had the VP even if he had retreated the Panzer Grenadier squad. So it was just a waste to keep his Panzer Grenadier squad there. He probably just didn't even notice it. That's really what happened there. I'm sure if he had noticed, he wouldn't have kept his Panzer Grenadier squad there, but he just probably didn't notice. I'm just trying to make an example out of it. Like, don't stay and fight if you're guaranteed to lose a fight. Don't stay and fight. Simple as that. Now, my opponent does have 2 VPs. That's one of the advantages for him capturing that leftmost VP, is now he has 2, and so he's no longer losing VPs. But I'm not really worried about that at this point in the game. I mean, look how much veterancy I have at the top right corner of the screen. I have 3 Vet 3 squads so far, and then 3 more Vet 2 squads, so I'm doing pretty well here. My opponent does have a Tiger, but like I said, the super tanks really aren't very good. They're really not. So you can bring a Tiger out onto the field. My two AT guns will make sure you can't do anything with it. If you come in too close to my conscripts, I'll also be sure to AT grenade you because it'll damage your engine. Then you'll be even slower, and that's why you'll be more cannon fodder for my AT guns. You can see I tapped in chat here. The Tiger isn't very good. It's really not. Tiger's not very good. I made a Company of Heroes 2 video called The Tiger, I believe. It was about the Tiger, that's for sure. And I said the Tiger is not very good, so it really isn't. That's why I don't use super tanks, like the IS-2 and the T-34-85s. Anyways, this Vet-2 AT gun is trying to kill the Tiger. I also have another AT gun firing at the Tiger from another angle, I guess. I saw the shell come and hit the Tiger. But I'm capturing the middle VP. Over on the right VP, you might be able to see a dot on the minimap, but that is actually a Vet-3 conscript squad with Pepeshkas. So that VP is basically protected from anything unless he brings a tank over there, which in all likelihood he's not going to do, because he probably feels like he needs his tanks more in the middle of the map than the right side of the map, and so he's going to keep them in the middle of the map. And so I'm not worried about any tank showing up at the right side of the map at that VP. So I have a really good anti-infantry squad over there, and I call that good enough. This AT gun is not supported, as you can see, and as a result it's needing to back up, and it might actually end up dying here, but it's actually not going to die because I finally ended up supporting it with a Vet-3 Pepeshka conscript squad. He is taking the middlemost VP, but that's not too much of a worry for me, because if you look over here, I'm sending another Vet-3 Pepeshka conscript squad over to the left side to capture that VP, so I should guaranteed have two VPs for the rest of this game, unless he attacks the left or the right, which at this point is seeming like something he wouldn't do. So I'm not really worried about losing the game at this point. I mean, once he sees that I do have the two side VPs, he is guaranteed to attack one of them if he's smart. But he's not guaranteed to make like a big push on it. Because if he does make a big push on it, then I'll just capture the middle one, and thus I'll still have two VPs, and he will still lose. So, not too worried about whatever he can bring to try and take the left or the right VP. There is a red dot over on the right side, which we'll talk about when I go over there to look at them. In the middle, there was a strafing run by the Stuka, and lucky for me, it didn't actually do too much. It just pinned my squads, because that's what it does. I did look over to the right side very briefly, and I saw that I killed a unit. I have no idea to this day what I killed, but it was something, and I'm sure it made him mad. And so he wasn't able to take the right VP, obviously, and so he just ends up quitting here. 12 VPs remaining, and I end up winning. I don't blame him for being mad about that. He just lost the squad trying to take the rightmost VP. I told you it was guaranteed he wouldn't bring a big attack to either side, and so my Vet-3 Pepeshka conscript squad was more than enough to take care of anything that he brought over there, and it definitely was. It owned whatever squad was over there. So the middle VP was his at the end of the game. His Tiger is very weak, as you can see. Super tanks are really not very good in this game. The best ones are the T-34-85s, and those are just decent. They're not great. Look at this squad. They didn't even take very much damage at all from whatever they killed. And then this squad over here was protecting the leftmost VP. They would have had the exact same result. So, yeah, the left and right VPs were very much covered by the two Vet-3 squads. If you look up at the top right corner of the screen, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Vet-3 squads, 4 of which are conscripts, and 1 of which is an AT gun. Then I have a Vet-2 mortar as well. That's the last vetted unit I have. So I have quite a bit of veterancy going on right now. And that is really what won me the game, just keeping my units alive. He was not as successful at it as I was. He did a good job keeping that Panzer IV alive. I mean, look at it. It's Vet-2. You don't see that very often. But he did. That's really the only unit he kept alive. So, unit preservation definitely won me this game. Veterancy from unit preservation won me the game as well. So overall, I would say it's a good game to show you guys, as to teach you guys like unit preservation. And in general, it was a decent game. It also shows how weak the Tiger is, in case you wanted to see another video about that. because the Tiger is just not very good. None of the super tanks are very good. Anyways, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned something about unit preservation, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.